we're sitting here talking with Roger Miller, and Teresa Shelley, who is our program coordinator, has heard me interview other people and heard them tell Roger Miller stories. And several years ago, she said, "Isn't he the one that almost got shot?" I said, "Yes." She remembers an interview we did one time with Bill Anderson, where you broke into his apartment. Do you remember that?
Yes. Me and Ben Keith, I think, the steel guitar player. No, wait a minute. I mean, it's a different apartment. A different break-in. But Bill almost scared the hell out of me.
Almost shot you.
Yeah. Boy, I could have set country music back.
Yeah, there'd been no Dang Me or King of the Road.
Oh, my.
Bill said he was a bachelor in those days.
Yeah.
But obviously knew you, and you came over to see him in the middle of the night, broke into his apartment.
Yeah.
Not maliciously.
No, just couldn't rouse him from sleep or something, and just wanted in. I had the bad thing, I guess, back then. When I wanted in, I just went in. I was going in through a window.
And I can recall one night you came to see me. Roger used to have a little three-wheeled vehicle.
Yeah.
And you had the only one in town that I saw.
Yeah.
And then you finally cracked her up out there on Charlotte Pike, didn't you?
That's right. I don't Charlotte. I hit a tree. I think I'd been up a couple of days, and I was roaring pretty loud. That was 25 years ago.
It's been a long time. Then I'll give you another old memory. You and Bill Anderson came to see me complaining about this new writer in California named Harlan Howard.
Yeah.
And the big thing, of course, was to get your songs cut. And Harlan was getting too many cut to please you guys.
Buck Owens was the hottest thing at that time, and Harlan was getting all his records. But Bill and I called Harlan when he was working at this publishing company, a magazine publishing company, a distributing company, and he was bundling magazines or something like that, binding magazines. But we were inviting him to come to Nashville. We wanted to keep a close eye on him.
I used to spend a lot of time with a lot of songwriters who didn't want to go home at night.
Yeah.
Including Roger Miller.
We kind of started the trend, I think. There was, let's see, Justin Tubb and Willie Nelson. Willie came along a little later. Bill Anderson and
Hank
Cochran. And it would all start at Tootsie's. There was a group of musicians that were in that group too. Buddy Emmons, who to this day is one of my dearest friends. And there was Jimmy Day. And it seemed like there was a lot of steel guitar players.
Big Ben Keith.
Big Ben. And we all would hang out with each other and sell each other's cars. I had a couple of cars that I bought from Big Ben for $100 a piece, I think. And, one of us would need $100 and the other would buy his car. It was really a pack. I won't say a pack of hounds, it was a pack, but it was a pack.
You know who it bothers that he was not a part of that? He's told me this, Larry Gatlin. Larry said, I arrived in Nashville too late.
Yeah, he got here about, 4 or 5 years after I had left and gone to Los Angeles. Dottie West was the female member of that group, and she and her husband at that time, Bill, lived out across the river out here on the west, way out in the country somewhere.
You remember the names?
Yeah.
We would make up names for people in the business.
Oh, God, she was Dorothy.
No, No. She was Beulah.
Beulah?
You were Sweeney.
Sweeney?
Weren't you?
That's right. I can't remember the names.
I was Moncrief.
Moncrief? We won't say what Bill West's name was, but it was Trumpet Rump.
What?
Trumpet Rump.
There was a name for Chet and for Justin and for people in that crowd.
Yeah.
And they would make up names that they thought fit your personality, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've never figured out what a Moncrief is.
Well, I don't know what it's a cross between a mongoose and a I don't know, a Carif. I think Justin was the one that was creating those names, but he was writing some great songs. And we were all just a bunch of early 20s guys.
You guys were all writing for Buddy Killen, weren't you?
Yeah.
And Jack Staff at Tree Music.
Yeah. I was the first one. And then I was trying to stir everybody else up and get them into the Buddy Killen thing. And there was a guy named Donnie Young.
Who later became...
Johnny Paycheck. And then Willie came along in about 1960. Well, Bill Anderson and I had gone to Fort Worth and we're playing a date down there. There was a guy on all night down there named Uncle Hank that played on XCRF, I believe, that radio station in Mexico. Do you remember this Uncle Hank guy?
Mm-mm.
You weren't actually into the country end of it at that time yet. You were playing the records down at WMAK, weren't you?
Yeah, I moved to WSM in October of '57.
Well, yeah. Well, this is about that time that Bill Anderson and I had gone down, and we were playing a date at the Fox Theater. I believe it was the old Fox Theater in Fort Worth, and it was a Cowtown Hoedown, and there was a lead guitar player in the band, a little redheaded guy, Willie Nelson, and we met him there, and he was writing songs, and he came down to Nashville and got a trailer out on Dickerson Road, and I loaned him a Buick. I was a two-car man by that time. I had a $100 Ford and about a $150 Buick. I was really rolling. I'd had Billy Baio and Invitation to the Blues.
Oh, now, Roger, in Recall, Invitation to the Blues, which was on the back of Ray Price's City Lights,
Yeah.
was 1959.
Was it?
Yep.
Well, then I had Billy Baio was 58.
Yeah, by Jim Reeves.
Yeah, and Home and If Heartache's the Fashion and those three. Yeah. Half of Mine was about 59.
Yeah, Ray Price. Oh, no, Ernest Tubb.
Ernest Tubb, yeah.
Who was the first major artist to record one of your songs?
George Jones.
What did he do?
He did Tall, Tall Trees and Hearts in My Dreams.
Did you write Big Harlan Taylor?
Yeah. There was a friend, a big fella named Big Harlan Taylor. And Harlan had a rubber-tired new shiny car.
Well, you really were into cars then, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I was just into things. That was it had a Grandpa Jones kind of a feel to it. I'm a mixture of Grandpa Jones and George Jones
And Roy Clark.
and Roy Clark and Herman Talmadge. I don't know.
I want to go to Broadway. Fact is, Roger Miller did go to Broadway and won 7 Tony Awards, which the Tony is the same thing as the Grammy is or the Oscar is. It is an award for excellence on Broadway. And I believe your production, Big River, won 7 Tony Awards in 1985, including Best Musical of the Year.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about that play.
It's the story of it's the story of Huckleberry Finn, the Mark Twain from the Mark Twain novel. I was approached to do this by a man who, back in the early '60s, he was a professor at Yale in theater. He taught theater critique and drama. And I met him about 1982. Years later, I was playing the Lone Star Cafe in New York City, and this man came and started talking to me about he had loved my work for many years, and he would quote me lyrics that I had written, from Half of Mine to Big Harlan Taylor's and stuff. He knew every lyric of every song I'd ever done, and I'd never met a scholar of my work. And he told me that he had produced one Broadway play, Pump Boys and Dinettes. And he told me that it always been his dream to get my work together with Mark Twain. And I said, well, it's a little late in it, I believe, because Twain can't defend himself. And he said that he had this wonderful idea, if I would write music to Huckleberry Finn, that it would be a great Broadway musical. And of course, my vision, I've always had vision for music and stuff, and I never had thought about stuff like that. And he would walk with me and talk with me. His name was Rocco Landisman. And he would talk to me about qualities of lyrics and different levels of things. And he convinced me, he said, you're the only man who can do this. And I said, really? He said, and if you don't do it, I won't do it. And I thought, well, I wouldn't want to rob you of the opportunity of doing this on Broadway. And he said, if you will write the songs, I will clear the way for you. I will get you the book written. I will get the investors together and clear the way for you. And as we went along, I found that everything he said he would do. He's a man of his word. And as I started writing pieces, I wrote the Hand for the Hog that I did on your show the other night. That was the first piece. I said, well, let me try a couple of things. So I started looking at the novel, and as I'd read, I realized that the people in the novel were my people. I come from Oklahoma, and my parents before me came from Arkansas. which is just south of Missouri, and they talk that same language that was in the book. I hadn't read the novel.
Let me ask you this, Roger. What sort of legal entanglements do you run into when you take an established work, like Mark Twain's work, and put music to it and put it out again? Do you have to get some sort of permission from Mark Twain's estate?
No, Rocco could explain this better than I, but this was 100 years later. Our story is an adaptation, I guess you'd call it. I didn't know that you could do that, but it's somehow you can take from great novels. If they're that old, it becomes public domain, I guess.
Were you a fan of Mark Twain?
Yeah.
Prior to this?
A fan, as I'm a fan of Will Rogers. Mark Twain, Will Rogers, people who communicated like that. I've always been kind of a fan. I wasn't a scholar of it. I just always appreciated it. I like Hank Williams. I'm a natural fan of Hank Williams, a scholar of that. People who touched people. I've always been interested in things like that.
Roger, how many performances, as we tape this, has Big River had?
This is a Friday that we're doing this, and I believe 3 days ago, last Tuesday, we had our 900th performance, Big River.
Now, this fall, you established some sort of record, don't you?
In this coming fall, in about 3 months, we, as of September, we will be one of the top 10 longest-running Broadway hits at the Eugene O'Neill Theater.
When did this open?
This opened in April of 1985.
Now, for a while, you were in the play, weren't you?
For a couple of months last year, I went up and played Huckleberry's Pap. The role was, I modeled the role after my dad, really, who sings, I don't know if you've heard the song, The Dadgum Government. And so I thought, well, I could really give it a piece of meat. I mean, I could really put some meat into the role. He sings, "You dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos, you got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes, you dadgum government." And then he goes into, "Why, you soul-selling, no-good sons of a shoe-fitting fire-starters, ought to tear you no-good prim in a toy bone frame and nail it to your government walls, all of you, bastards." So I could just do that, you know. That's my daddy used to wave his hat at the clouds when they'd come up. You know, it wouldn't rain, and he'd get off his tractor and, "Why, you god dang no good soul selling sons of a..."
You know who you're sounding like? You're sounding like Walter Brennan.
"Well, get out of the barn, Hassie."
Roger, where do you live?
I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Why?
Well, it's close to the house. I lived in Los Angeles for a lot of years, and then I realized that I didn't have to live. I didn't like Los Angeles that much. It made my head buzz. And I knew some people who lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It sounds like a remote desert town, but it's not. It's up in the mountains. It's about 60 miles north of Albuquerque, and which I can spell Albuquerque now.
Can you?
ALBUQUERQUE.
Hey, there's a song.
And then I moved to out close to a little town called Tesuque, which is TESUQUE, and these are Indian words. That's some of the stuff I hear out there. But
Roger, what did you just say? Which means trailers for sale are red.
Which means your hat's on fire.
Well, I know. I just wondered if you moved there because of Mary or if it was your idea.
Mary had never been there. But we went there to visit.
Did you wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm moving to New Mexico"?
No, we've got a motorhome, and Mary and we went out of Los Angeles one time and was driving back to Iowa to see Mary's parents and visit her hometown. And we stopped off in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we just fell absolutely in love with it. It's a different city than any other city. It's an adobe town. It's got little dirt streets. A lot of them are dirt streets, but it's a great town. There's a lot of great painters live there, great writers. Our next door neighbor, the place next to ours, is a man in his 70s who's one of the foremost nature photographers, and he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, Elliot Porter. There's just a quality of life there. And we have a little place outside of town, about 20 acres, and the creek runs, and the horses whinny, and and the dogs bark and the coyotes howl. And up on the hill, just from our house, on the crest of the hill, I see one of the great opera houses of the country, the Santa Fe Opera House. And sometimes on summer nights when the wind's right, I can hear opera. We can sit on the roof of our house and hear opera on this side, and over here I can hear coyotes, which is quite a contrast. And in the afternoon when the sun sets, you want to applaud. The light is so great there. We're 7,000 feet up, and there's a lot of reasons why I live there.
Roger, do you ski?
No, I skied a lot. I'm slippery.
I recall in 1965 when you won every Grammy in sight, and you had a run there of Grammy awards that was incredible. How many Grammys total did you win?
11.
In 65, I think you won everything but Best Female Performer.
Yeah.
And Jody Miller won that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she did it with one of your songs, Queen of the House, which was a spinoff of King of the Road.
In 65 and 66. I did 5 Grammys that year and 6 the next year. And it was a thrill.
Did King of the Road win a Grammy?
Yeah.
The reason I ask, there are some great songs, and like Bobby Goldsboro told me, Honey did not win a Grammy.
No.
So I always ask because there is a chance that some great song didn't really win one.
All my Grammys were for 2 songs. Dang Me was the first one. It won 5, and then King of the Road won 6. For single and album, and there's one Grammy that says R&R, which is rock and roll.
Do you think these were your best songs?
They're among my best. They're the most successful, certainly. But
what would be third?
I thought England Swings was an innovative song.
That's a cute song.
Yeah.
Were you a hit in England?
Yeah.
Was that song a hit over there?
Yeah, it was a big hit. It came out. It had just come out, and it became #1 over there.
Now, over there, they don't separate the pop from the country, so I assume it was
Everything over there was pop. Pop.
Pop?
It's pop. Hey, welcome to Top of the Pops. And there was no country or hillbilly or whatever. It was all...
Do you still sing out on the road? You still do concerts?
Yeah.
Where do you work?
Well, Shell stations and things like that. I'm working, let's see. I work Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Reno a lot. I work a lot of fairs. I work a lot of theaters, dinner theaters.
So you don't do one-nighters as so many acts in Nashville do?
No, I've never had a bus. Never had a bus. Had a Learjet for a while, like to ate me alive, financially. But I'm just now getting to the fact. I got to looking at Willie Nelson and a lot of people. Those buses they're like their homes. They're wonderful. They're not the old Farron Young buses. I mean, not putting Farron down, but 25 years ago, Farron them used to have an old bus, and it just had the seats in it.
Mm-hmm.
And now
they have drawing rooms.
Oh, drawing rooms and bathrooms and kitchens.
And VCRs and television sets and...
Used to be the bathroom was a little hole in the floor, and you'd raise a flap, and if anything was hanging...
Roger, I want to give you some names. Play a little game here. I want you to just tell me right off the top of the head what you remember about these people, okay?
Sure.
All right, Willie Nelson.
I don't remember Willie. Willie Nelson, from the very beginning I knew him. I said earlier I met him in Fort Worth. He came here with his wife Martha and their 2 daughters and their son Billy. And Willie and I, he played bass in the band with Ray Price for a while, and I had the Cherokee Cowboys. I was the front man. And let's see, I drove Willie and Hank out to Farron's house to take Hello Walls. I seem to have been involved in everything here.
All right, Ray Price.
Ray Price, I was on the fire department in Amarillo, Texas. I had been here a few months, and in about the summer of '57, after I'd been here 6 months or so, I took my first wife, who was pregnant at the time, and I wasn't making any good living really here. And we moved to Amarillo, Texas, and I got on the fire department, and Ray Price came through one night, and I was backstage visiting, and singing with Jimmy Day and all them. I was singing my songs and trying to pitch songs. About that time, Van Howard, who was singing the duets with Ray, was about to quit the business and go back to Texas and do something. And Ray said, "Boy, you can sing high." I could sing up in there and all that stuff, and I had these songs and all that. And Ray said, "Would you like to come to work with me?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And about a month later, he called me and I went to work with him, and then I did Heartaches with a Number with him, and he recorded Invitation to the Blues. And,
How long were you a fireman?
I was about to get fired anyway from the fire department because my interest was in music more than it was fires.
Cousin Minnie Pearl.
Oh boy! And when I first got out of the army and came here, I had to get a job. So reluctantly, I took a job. I got a job as a bellhop at the Andrew Jackson Hotel. Well, at night usually I hung around WSM, and but one Friday evening at the Friday Night Frolics, Johnny Johnson, a guitar player on the Opry and a musician around town, was trying to put a band together. He said that Minnie Pearl was going out. This is right after I'd gotten here, and she was going to do a summer tour of fairs, and she needed a fiddle player. And I said, "Hey, here I am." I knew a couple of tunes on the fiddle, and I went to work with Minnie Pearl. And Mel Tillis was the guitar player in the band, and Minnie and Henry have been dear friends ever since. I used to sing my songs, and Minnie of them would let me sing on the show. I'd do Fraulein.
Oh, the old Bobby Helms.
Yeah.
Mel Tillis.
Melvin Tillis, who, like I said, was playing guitar in the band, and we've been friends ever since. He had written Honky Tonk and I'm Tired for Webb Pierce at that time, and he has carried his guitar around in what we call a toe sack, a burlap sack. And
I mean, he couldn't afford a guitar case.
He couldn't afford a guitar case because he couldn't even talk enough to order one, I guess. We'd be on tour, and all he could order was cheese sandwich.
Hey, we have reached the end of the road with the King.
I hate to see the week come to an end, Ralph.
I've certainly enjoyed having you on the show, Roger.
I've enjoyed it. I've never had much experience as a disc jockey,
And
but
still
I have
haven't.
now.
Huh?
And I have now, and I can add that to my background. Have you ever been a disc jockey? Well, for a week with Ralph Emery.
You, some people say, well, what has happened to Roger Miller? What's he doing now?
Don't they know?
Huh?
Don't they know?
Well, I'm...
Am I that down the pike?
No. It's just that you don't work the personals that the normal country music entertainer does.
No.
And you live in your mansion in California. We don't see a lot of you.
I'm a private person, really.
Would you say you're withdrawn?
Not really. I'm just a private person.
Private person?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it means I never made private first class.
What? Is Thomas Carlyle still with you?
The last time I looked.
I said Buddy Emmons.
Yeah, and Marty Allred on drums. And it's a pretty tight little group.
Roger, I want to thank you for being with us.